All right. Well, welcome everybody. Hey, we're so excited that you're here with us today, whether you're joining live or you're watching a recording of this webinar. You are joining up with us for an exciting conversation around getting acquired. And we're going to be sharing some amazing tips on how you can get the maximum valuation for your company. And we're going to give you a process flow. We're going to introduce you to two different experts that have had success in scaling and exiting companies. And we're going to get a chance to talk to you about a new book from one of our distinguished speakers. And Jeff, I'm super excited to get everybody joining us today. Tell them a little bit more about Grow My Profit as we welcome them here to the webinar.
Yeah, so Grow My Profit, our company kind of founded with the goal of helping business owners grow their profit. I mean, drive revenue and profitable revenue and drop more money to the bottom line. Whether that's just, hey, I want my business to grow and make more money, or I'm planning an exit in a few years, 1 to 5 years out, and I want to sell my business for, $10 million. How much profit do we need? What's the multiple in your industry? How do we add value to the business so that you can have an exit? And like what you say, Dave, just maybe they just want to exit the CEO role and not be working 50 or 60 hours a week. Just, turn the business over to someone else to run and grow it. But putting those systems together, a sales plan, a marketing plan, a business plan, so our company kind of founded on just helping business owners partner with them to grow revenue, profits, and for an exit of a sale or an exit of exiting the CEO role, kind of our big goal.
Yeah, I mean, and you've had some success in your businesses, and so you've had a chance to not only scale the businesses using the methods and strategies and tactics, but you've also been able to have a big exit, and you went through this process. And so, just talk a little bit more about your experience in scaling a company, and that point in time when you said, "I'm going to sell it. I need to put myself into position to get acquired." What was that decision, or when was that decision? And then what were the things that you started thinking about when you made that decision?
Well, I basically founded 3 companies from scratch over a 30-year career in business. And, one of them, we got it from zero to $40 million. One went from zero to $12 million, making $3 million a year in net profit on 12 million in revenue. And then the third one, we grew it from zero to 65 employees, $20 million a year in revenue, making $4 million net profit. And that was the one I had the nice 8-figure exit on 3 years ago, April 1st, sold it. And now I've got this wedding venue that went from $50,000 in sales per year, basically 5 small weddings, to we did 68 weddings last year. And what I've learned in business to business, business to consumer, the wedding business, the mortgage business, escrow and real estate business, ad agency, dear God, it's all the same. It's really our 6 steps to growing a business is, more leads, generating marketing, more salespeople, drive revenue, increase margin by adding on services so you increase gross margin and drop a lot of money to the bottom line. And then when I started company number 3, I knew if I get this thing to $10 million in sales and we can make $2 million in profit, I can have a 7-figure exit and sell it for $10 million. And so I started the company, and I thought I could do it in 5 years. It took like 10. But by the time we were done, it was $4 million in earnings, nice multiple, 8-figure exit. So, I kind of started with the end in mind with that one, because I had built some big businesses and then the market changed and they either slowed down or more partners got involved. So this one was all mine. I owned 100% of it. So start to finish, and that was fun, but a 10-year deal. So,
Yeah, well, we're going to get to Christine here in just a moment, but just give us a little bit of an experience, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are tuning into this live or watching a recording, and they're in that position where they want to get acquired, and they're going through the thought processes of what they know, what they don't know. What were some of the things that you didn't know when you made the decision to get acquired?
well, one of the things, how many times you get to sell a business for 8 figures? You got 40 of them behind your belt? No, you got 0 on your way to 1. Maybe sometimes people have a few in their lifetime. So it's like the biggest financial decision of your life, and you don't know what's going on. So I hired a lot of people that had done a lot of exits, a business consultant, M&A company who specialized in my industry, a good attorney, a good CPA, and I hired them all a year in advance just so I could plan the exit to try to get maximum value. So you realize how much you don't know and how much is involved, and hiring the best people and paying them well to get you the biggest number, all money well spent. So that was, a year before, actually more like 2 years before I sold it, we started planning, and then, got more serious about it in a year. And when it trended the right number, and then the timing was right. But being prepared was so important. I had a friend that was over here yesterday that just sold his company for $440 million. And he started 2 years before, kind of pivoting the company and making sure the revenue was in the right place, the products, not too many big customers that represented 50% of his revenue. There's so much planning to make this business look attractive to a buyer. And one of the things is get yourself out of the company. So when they came to interview me, they go, Jeff, how many of the clients do you personally sell? I go, zero. I've got 20 salespeople, no relationships with Jeff. So after I sell this and I'm gone, you guys are going to be okay. It's not like the business was built around me. So trying to get yourself out of the business is hard to do, especially if it's your baby. And I did everything for the first couple years, but later on getting away from it because they want to buy a business that's going to grow whether you're there or not. So planning for that was big. Anyways, Christine's more of an expert on that. So maybe we'll
Yeah, well, let's
introduce her.
jump in and introduce her. Christine, we're so excited that you're joining us here today for this exciting topic and getting a chance to share some of your amazing wisdom from your experience and doing M&As and running your boutique advisory firm where you're really working a lot with selling digital businesses, but you've had a lot of experience in walking through this journey and helping entrepreneurs to go through these 7 steps to having a lucrative exit. So we're super excited to dive in today. But let's first, Jeff, I mean, you've built a relationship. You've been inside of a mastermind group with Christine. Talk a little bit about your experience in getting to know Christine over the years.
Yeah, Christine, was it 7 years ago? I mean, I'm guessing I might have met you 10 years ago, but I think we got involved in the mastermind group. So maybe 7 years. So like joining a marketing mastermind group, which was really all about how to drive leads into our companies to grow revenue so we make more money, right? It was like not a CEO group. It wasn't like a, what is it, B&I trading leads. It was like, no, how do we do more marketing to get more leads coming in to make more sales and all make more money? And we both just had, businesses and huge growth over 7 years. So I was just always impressed by Christine's acumen in business. I mean, I watched her buy a bunch of companies, sell a bunch of companies, and then get into this M&A space and kill it in the M&A space. So we've been kind of friends and in the same mastermind group, 6 hours a month, once a month for 7 years. So we spent a lot of time together. So I know she's good and brings a lot of value to her clients, and excited that we're friends and kind of colleagues in the marketing mastermind group. So that's pretty much the history. And then we've done some fun things, right? The sailboat ride in San Diego, just some cool stuff for all the other people in our group that had big exits or started making a lot of money and bought a 42-foot sailboat, and we all get to kind of hang out outside of work in the group. That was fun. So anyways, that's my history with Christine.
So welcome, Christine. We're excited to have you on the webinar.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's nice to have 2 brothers like as hosts. That's a first. I love it.
Well, we're super excited. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. And Christine's right now just packing some things up, getting ready to have a little opportunity to transition into a new spot and spend a little bit more time in Dubai, from what I understand. So got some fun things that are happening there. We're excited to hear a little bit more about that. But hey, let's jump into this. What got you into the business of doing M&As and business transactions?
Well, I have 20 years already under my belt of buying, selling, building, exiting companies. So it's been a fun 20 years. It went very fast. And so just a couple of years ago, and Jeff, again, when he mentioned the mastermind, a couple of the women in my mastermind group was like, asked if I could consult. They'd pay me as a consultant to help on their exit because I've done so many of my own. And so I had such a good time, and they just kept saying, you should do this for real. You should do it for real. And that was kind of always my retirement plan, was to start like a boutique M&A firm. So yeah, I just started doing it sooner than then. And that was 2.5 years ago, launched the Magnolia firm.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to get a chance to dive into your new book, Get Acquired, the 7 steps to crushing your exit and having a valuable exit. So let's get right into it. And would you mind just starting off with what are the 5 top things that business owners need to have dialed in before they list their business for sale?
Yeah, I call them the 5 magical R words. And, you know, some people listening, you know, some businesses, it's not possible to have some of these, but if it is possible, please, 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 you know, make sure it's all lined up, and I'll go over each one in detail. First, I'll tell you them. It's remote, relocatable, removal of owner, recurring revenue, and then retention. So, you know, let's dive into each one actually. So remote means you have a remote-based business that could be ran from anywhere. We strictly only deal with digital-based businesses because again, they kind of cover all the R words usually. Digital marketing agencies, graphic design firms. We just signed up a website design firm, even content production studios. So we have one in New York, which has a physical location, but both partners run it remote. So, you know, that's okay. I've had people purchase a business from across the US and then they can run it remote because there's such an amazing team in place and the team stays. So that's a great, you know, situation. Relocatable, that would be, so some of these digital businesses actually have office space, even though their team stayed remote after COVID and they just still have a lease. Some of them have to, you know, wait out the lease or maybe the buyer will take it over. So that's relocatable. And then removal of owner is a huge. If you're working 70, 80 hours a week, you're going to end up with an earnout. You're going to end up having to stay another year or two because it's going to be hard for them, you know, to take all that. You know, they would probably, you know, us as owners, probably takes 3 people to replace us, right? So those are some hefty salaries. So the more, and we do this, once we list a company, we start pulling stuff off this seller, and it's typically sales. I know Jeff's the sales expert. The hat that every single owner doesn't give up until the very end is the sales hat, right? Nobody's going to sell as good as the owners. Like that's just a known fact. There's not really any way around it. You'll have a good sales team, but still, you're the owner, you're passionate about it. So usually the last thing I have to pull off the owner is trying to get, you know, a sales director and get a sales team straightened out. And that salesperson needs to take over the relationships because the owner usually has the big accounts that they're managing. So that's removal of owner. And I will say this last part to that is I would say the sweet spot is 15 hours a week. If you're working 15 hours a week, great. They love hearing that. If you're saying I work 0, nobody doesn't believe that, right? So don't say that. It's not possible as the owner. So yeah, 10 to 15 is like the sweet spot where that owner, I can get them out within a 1-2 month training, boom, out the door, riding off into the sunset. And then the recurring revenue, which again, this won't be specific to all businesses, but even a service business can, again, from the mastermind, you know, Henry Evans led that group. And for my spa, he's like, you need to put in some sort of recurring revenue. And that was memberships. And now that's pretty common for like massage places and spas. But back then it was not, I promise you that. And this is 2012. So we put in monthly recurring memberships and then annual VIP memberships. So I had about 30% of my spa revenue was recurring, which when I exited a higher multiple because of that. And then the last one is retention of your team, but more importantly, retention of your clients. So if you have a high churn rate, especially in software, right? If you're just like someone's in the door, someone's out the door, and your clients are churning out, your big accounts are churning out quickly, that buyer's going to look at that churn rate and your retention. So trying to kind of tighten that up, right? If somebody cancels, reach out, you know, just see if you can recover it. But I think so many of us, we're busy getting the new ones in that we ignore that.
Hey, Christine, I was talking to somebody who was getting ready to exit their SaaS business, and they told me if they kept 90% of their clients year over year, you know, it was going to be like 20x. But if they did 95%, it was like 30x. I'm like, dear God, the difference of 5% retention, I was blown away. They look at 92, 93. The percentage can be a huge difference in multiple, right? That's pretty amazing. I was shocked to hear that. You know, in my business, we had like a 50% retention. So hence I didn't get, the huge multiple because I was getting new clients every year and, it wasn't like monthly recurring. So, as looking back, it's like, wow, it would have been great to have that monthly recurring revenue. But so the difference of 90 and 95% retention can be huge.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So let's go back through those just really quick because it sounds like we got a pirate here that's given a lot of R's, right? So it's remote, relocatable, recurring revenue, retention, and removal of owner. Are those are the five?
Exactly.
Fantastic. So for those of you that didn't capture those, remote, relocatable, recurring revenue, retention, removal of owner. Let me just ask the straight up question, Christine. What's the hardest?
Oh, removal of owner.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's my baby, right? You
Yeah.
hate to hear that. If it's your baby, that means you're the mom and you're still nursing, right? Like not good, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just had this conversation just yesterday with a new client we landed, and they're just like, "It's my baby," like, and they're like, "I feel bad saying that." I'm like, every business owner says that. For me, it's like the kids are going off to college. Like I'm excited, like they've gotten to the age where they can go out on their own. Like every time I exit one of my companies, that's how I look at it.
Yeah, and I would imagine that there's probably some level of hesitancy with post-sale ambiguity. It's like, okay, yeah, so once I get done selling it, then what? And maybe do you work with those business owners on having a good post-sale transition plan so that they have something that's exciting and thrilling to keep moving them towards it?
Oh, David, I'm so glad you brought that up. And again, I won't say her name, but she's another member in the mastermind. She had the company for over 20 years. That's the one I was consulting with. It was a big exit. And she's a good friend of mine. So she got really depressed a month later. And I was like, that's okay. That's interesting. And then another one of my sellers, same thing. So by that time, I'm like, something's going on because I'm already dovetailed into the next venture simultaneously when I'm exiting. So I'm already excited about the new thing. So yeah, reached out to somebody. She's got a PhD here in San Diego. She's brilliant, kind of like a life coach, therapist. And I told her what was happening. And she goes, "Oh, it's because they need to grieve their business." And I was like, whoa, she's like, "You've got all these employees reporting to you and everybody's looking up to you and you've got the answers and you've got your friends, friends, you're giving them a paycheck. Then they're maybe not friends anymore. I don't know. But you're just that person in the middle of everything. And so then overnight you lost it all. Boom, gone, done. And again, you're excited, you have money in the bank and you should be thrilled, no more employees. But yeah, it just takes about a month and then it'll hit them. So on our YouTube channel, the Magnolia Firm, Nancy made a video for me, how to grieve for everybody. It's 5 minutes. It's called How to Grieve Your Business. And she walks you through the steps. So we give that now when I have a client and they're in escrow, I give it to them. My last one said, Christine, I'm not going to watch it. I don't want to jinx my close. She's like, I'll watch it on the day of close. But all of them are like, I'm not going to get depressed. I hate my business now or whatever. And then they do. So I'm like, you have to watch this video.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the hurdles that are oftentimes in the way of some of the R's. So when it comes down to, I mean, obviously, the grieving process and all that, but when it comes down to helping business owners to have that lucrative exit, what are some of those things that you could just share with those people that are watching right now that are like, hey, just as friend to friend, right? If I'm not representing your business sale, if I'm just telling you as a friend, as a former business owner who had an exit, here would be a couple of things that you need to be aware of right now.
Yeah, so that's why we wrote the book is Get Acquired, right? And you guys can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll give you a free PDF copy and the audio, which is narrated by yours truly. It's like a 3-hour audio. So because that is literally step by step. What we did with that book, and Lauren, my team member, co-authored with me, is we wanted to give every single step that you literally could take my book and sell your own company. Like we wanted to do that. My pet peeve was all these other M&A advisors and business brokers, their books, they make it sound overcomplicated on purpose. They plug their services left and right. We didn't at all. So there wasn't all the answers. And this is definitely a book that's probably going to piss off some brokers. And I don't mind ever pissing people off because we give some of the little dirty secrets that they pull. It's sad. There's some shady characters in the industry. I'm not going to say everybody. I have some great friends of mine that do honest transactions. So I would say reading the book, but I would also say interviewing 3 different advisors, because you'll feel it, right? If it's a fit. And then you'll be armed with our dirty secrets and you'll look out for it. And then we even have questions to ask a broker, a PDF. Again, reach out to us. We could get that over and use those questions. And these are questions that are never asked, even of me. It's very odd, to be honest. These are important questions. Like, when was your last sale? How long did it take? Did it go for asking price or over or under? Except, like, there's all these questions nobody ever asks. It's weird. Our stuff is all online, though. If you go to Success Stories, we're very transparent. You can literally read every single story. You can see what the businesses went for. Yeah.
Christine and I had something interesting happen to us when both of us were selling companies, where we found this person. I'm not going to say his name, but he's a pretty famous person and wrote some famous books. And I think I know I paid like $25,000 to build just a deck to go out and pitch the company for sale. And literally like 6 months later, we had no buyers, no marketing. No, it was terrible. I mean, I think, we both had a bad experience, I think, with the same person spending a whole bunch of money, and he was really well known, and I just thought, after going through that, like, it's not always about the biggest and spending the most money.
Yeah. And
It's about, hooking up with the person that's going to get it done and that does what they say they're going to do. It doesn't have to be a bunch of big, upfront fees. It's like most people do it on success basis. They're going to make, whatever their big commission on sell the company. I mean, there might be a couple things up front that you have to pay for, but audited financials or getting some things in line. But that was an interesting experience I think we both went through. So,
well, I call it my $25,000 ride in a Lamborghini for 20 minutes. Because this person's very flashy and he's like, oh, to sell me to close on them, taking my software company to market. Oh, we'll sell it so easily, so quickly. Not and you pay 25,000 for a deck that they outsourced to have put together out in India that maybe cost them $200. So yeah, it wasn't a good example. It was not. Usually I'm very good about kind of spotting that out, but
yeah, me too.
Yeah. Because you went to him first. I was like, oh, Jeff's like, because that was before you had a bad experience.
Right.
Well,
So
I don't know if anybody else that's watching live has a question, but we'd love to have you use the Q&A in the Zoom feature. Should be on the bottom of your screen. You may have to tap your screen before you find the Q&A feature, but go ahead and submit your questions and we'll get an opportunity to pass those over to Christine. Christine, let's talk a little bit more about some of the confidence and competence factors. What are some of the things that you've written inside the book that you've experienced that you could give to our participants today to grow their confidence and grow their competence, that they can attract a high caliber acquirer?
Yeah, and right now, I'm glad you talked about the chat. I just threw it in. So that's the direct link to get the PDF for free and the audio. So anybody can do that. And so it's so funny, this brand new client. So just this week, such a great guy, website design firm. So if anybody's interested, reach out before it goes live. We've sold businesses because one guy, he was mowing his lawn and he literally heard me on a podcast, this buyer, went to the website immediately. And we were teasing it out. So when somebody signs, immediately we're going to tease it out and say coming soon. And he had $3.5 million listing that he bought before it went live. So anyways, anybody listening needs a website design firm, that's incredible, let me know. So this guy, he was just like, he's at it for like, I think 10 years, no, more than 10 years. And he was just like so down on himself as far as, him building, I don't know. I even told Lauren, I'm like, he's like so hard on himself. He uses a profit first concept, which it's a book. Most people do not use profits. It's like a framework for business. Profit first, meaning you pay yourself first and then everybody else. And you run a very strict budget. And he's the second one I know that's used it. The guy, Scott, friggin' 350,000 on the balance sheet, right? Everybody I've met that uses that framework makes really good money, and they have a very healthy bank account on the balance sheet, which is very, very rare. So yeah, and he's just like, I'm like, you need to get, he's told me about his business and he works like 4 hours a week. Genuinely, he's like, I don't really work. I took a 1 year sabbatical, but gosh, I'm not a good business owner. I'm like, you need to get a freaking award for best business owner, as he starts like listing all these things. And so, yeah, I mean, just having the confidence, I think we're so in the weeds. Most of the transactions I've done, where I'm in there, I'm like the outside looking in, right? So I can find all the gems, 20 years of business, so many companies I've seen and had. And so like, I eat, sleep, breathe business. Like a lot of people already know that, right? So I can see these little gems that I can pull out real fast. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're doing this right. You're doing that. Wow. By the end of the transaction, the owner is even like, whoa, like I built something super cool. And they're really confident. But you're right. I think the beginning, you're just you don't know, right? Especially those that don't have a circle. Like, again, we were lucky enough to be in a mastermind for 12 years. So, but some people are just heads down and they're like, am I even doing this right?
Right. Hey, Christine, a good question just came in from a guy by the name of Phil, but what do you take from selling a business that informs purchasing a new business? What do you want in the DNA of a business or team at the beginning to help with the long-term focus of selling a business? Sounds like somebody might be selling one and getting ready to buy one. Does that make sense? I don't know if you
It
can see
does
that.
make sense. Yeah, I see it. So the best book to read, and I'm happy to talk about both the sell side, and now we're doing buy side. So if somebody's looking to acquire, then we actually help them in the process, whether it's private equity or private buyer. And so the Buy Then Build is by Walker Dybel, is an incredible book. I
Yeah.
recommend that to anybody that wants to start a business or buy one, starting, because he proves how dumb it is. It's so hard to start a business from scratch. Again, I've done it a bunch. I like to innovate and I like to be creative. So those days I had the energy and I'm like, yeah, let me start this new thing. But looking back, now I buy already existing profitable businesses and flip them. Like during COVID, and Jeff knows, I took 2 spas during COVID, took them over, put some software in place, and then flipped them right when COVID, right when we could open back up. One was given to me for free. So I'm a massive fan now of like acquiring businesses. So, what do I want in the DNA of a business? I mean, I want the team to stick around. You can actually write that into the purchase agreement. You can even negotiate, which sometimes the buyer's like, oh, I'll kick them some cash if they stay. How about this? When you negotiate, again, I'm negotiating against myself right now. I'm giving secrets out, but negotiate to have the seller give them a bonus if they stay the 6 months or the year, right? But either way, get the team to stay. That's important. Also to, let's see here, the cash flow is super important. People are buying, it's a seller's market like crazy still, but the keyword is profitable businesses. They have to be profitable. I want to search their reviews, make sure they don't have bad reviews online. And then, what else? Because again, you're going to acquire the business, you're going to fix it up. Oh, the software piece. This is the last piece I'll say. The one I just said. If it is like an old school business, so all these baby boomers right now, it's like 10,000 a day. It's insane, are retiring out of their business, whether they're going to sell it, which I guess I think this is crazy stats, 80% of businesses never actually sell that go to market. They either just shut it down or the transaction falls apart. So you've got 10,000 of those people a day. And these baby boomers, they're kind of set in their ways. Those 2 spas, the ladies were in their 60s, mid 60s. They were on a little paper appointment books. And once I put the software in place, what was it? Like 62% of all bookings were booked online. So then you don't have to have like as many, receptionists doing all these bookings and calls. So that's the biggest one. If you guys can find businesses that don't have much tech in place, and they're kind of old school, that is massive. That's immediate like ROI.
Hey, Christine, would you give the name of that book and the author one more time?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You get there in the chat. It's Buy Then Build, Walker Dybel, Dieble, I believe. Might want to Google it.
Wonderful. So I just typed that in the chat. Let's move on to the idea of, oh, look at Jeff's already doing it. Hold on, Jeff. I got to make sure that everybody sees you got it up on your screen. So Walker
Oh,
Dybel.
yay.
Nice.
Yeah. That's a good one. I'm about halfway through, but it's a great book.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit more, because you just made a comment about something, and I know that there's people that are watching this right now, and their their profit isn't necessarily where they would love it to be, but maybe they're within a short window of an exit. And maybe share a little bit about how casting a vision for where your company could go. And I know that that's not everything, but it could be a difference of a significant amount of money if you're able to cast a vision of where the company is on track to go, even though that profit may not be exactly where you want it to be. So any thoughts on that? I'm
Yeah, I
speaking, I know
mean,
that there's somebody specifically on this live webinar right now that has made the comment that we need to get our profit up. They know that they're on track to do it, but they're also looking at maybe a quicker sale and moving on to something different. So how do you maximize and get a lucrative exit even though profit isn't maximized?
yeah, so another great question. So obviously in the first few years of a business, you're just pumping all the cash back in. There is no profit, right? Especially for those bootstrapping, which I'm a massive fan of. So that's going to be the first couple of years. So don't feel bad if there isn't any, profit showing quite yet, because you're scaling. And then, I would say 3 years in, typically, depending on the business, then you should start seeing the profit coming in. Great. You're still reinvesting. And I just told this story on a podcast yesterday. So for my spot, and again, you can't fix what you don't measure. Let me start by saying that. If you guys have no idea how much you're spending in marketing, what the ROI is on the marketing, et cetera, then that's a bad place to start, because then you're not going to know on that side. Oh, sorry, one second.
So Jeff, talk a little bit more about when you went through the process of exiting, because obviously there were things that you had to do or you decided to do to maximize your valuation. Was there anything specifically that you were able to do to cast a bigger vision to the private equity company that came in and purchased you?
There was a couple things a year before I sold. I thought about, do I slow down my marketing spend so I can show more profit to the bottom line? But if I do that, sales are going to suffer, right? So I remember making a conscious decision, like, I'm not changing anything. We're going to keep rolling. I'm not cutting anything. And I got to share this. Yesterday, I had my CEO club here at Hawk Ranch, and there was 14 CEOs. And one guy said, Jeff, I tried to buy 3 businesses, and we had it down to the day that we were supposed to send the wire, and all 3 backed out. The day the wire was supposed to go out. Like, we've had some second, so the deal's not done until the wire comes in. I think, he thought these deals were done. It's amazing how many deals they get canceled at the last minute. And what happens is, if the deal's in escrow and due diligence for 6 months, if the owner takes his or her eye off the ball, driving revenue and profit because they think it's sold, and then all of a sudden sales dip and the buyer backs out and walks away, now you got a crap storm that you have to fix. So I remember hearing that. So I hired a guy to do all the paperwork, handle all the due diligence. I am not taking my eye off the ball. I'm going to keep driving sales, revenue, profit, as if this thing's not even going to close. And thank God. I mean, my buyer went through and it was pretty smooth, but a lot of times they don't. So I think that's just good advice for a CEO. Do not stop working in your business, driving revenue and sales just because you think it's sold, because 3 to 6 months from now, if the thing falls apart, you're going to be in a bad spot. And now it's not really saleable because sales are declining. It's not a good story. So I just thought I'd share that because it was conversation yesterday and something I dealt with. So sorry, back to
Yeah.
Christine.
No, and I'll dovetail on that, but I want to rewind because I left everybody on a cliffhanger. So on the podcast yesterday, again, you guys got to measure your marketing. I knew with 36 different sources of marketing at my spa, I knew what the top 3 were. I knew the ROI on every single one of the top 3. And then I knew if you took all 36 and how much we spent a month on marketing and you divide it, and I'm happy to help people through this. I know I'm going too fast. But then I knew my, cost to acquire a client, right? So I knew it was like a freaking slot machine. I knew if I put $1 in, I get 5 back. I was getting 5 to 1. So then I was smart enough to know if I go get that Starbucks, if I spend $10 at Starbucks, that freaking coffee just cost me $50. Like, this is how I think, right? I'm just really careful with money, and I like my business growing quickly. I like it scaling. So I'm just like pumping in all this money. And again, I'm like a bootstrapper. So it's not like I should have borrowed money to do it, but if it's like a little slot machine, but then you can't really scale. You'll break the company if you try to like pump in too much, right? You got to, make sure. And we had 37 employees in 2 locations at the end of the day after 5 years. So that was pretty, and so I don't know if you have additional questions to that story.
Jeff, any follow-up to that?
No, I mean, she's hitting on some great points, obviously, because she has the experience. What I like about Christine is she's not just like a business broker, M&A person. She's done it. She's an entrepreneur that grew companies, sold them, knows all the ins and outs of it. And that's pretty powerful. You don't want to use somebody that's never owned a business, never been through this before. And I think most of the M&A people out there, that they do M&A, that they didn't really have the experience themselves. So I just love that about Christine. And she's, a hustler. I mean, she'll get things done and just does, does what she says she's going to do. That's just crucial, because when you're going through this process, it's already stressful. The last thing you need is somebody not following up or doing what they say they're going to do, because you already have doubts. Should I sell this thing? Should I wait a year until it gets bigger? And then if your partner that's helping you sell is not on top of it, so I don't know, it just makes it for a lot smoother transaction, I think, when you have somebody that's on top of it, answering emails. I mean, even when Christine takes off to Dubai, she's up, the time difference early in the morning, like responding quickly. So that's so important. It makes you feel a lot more comfortable about who you partnered with to sell your business. It could be the biggest transaction of your life. It's usually a lot bigger than buying a house,
Yeah. And so, no, thank you for that. A lot of people don't know that you only need your real estate license to become a business broker in majority of the states in the US, including here in California. So yeah, if somebody was selling houses and they're like, I'm going to sell businesses now, which is so much more complicated, right? And that's why the commissions are higher. But back to your point about these deals falling out at the last minute, I have a funny story about that. And so luckily one hasn't done that on the day of, no, we haven't done that. But or that hasn't happened to us, but I've heard all those stories. I've heard of a massive deal and COVID. It was supposed to close the next day and COVID, boom, and these wars, boom. It's like these black swan events have been happening a lot in our lifetime lately. So that's all it takes. So my favorite saying is time kills all deals. We are freaking moving. Talk to anyone. And my clients are moving too. They know that from the get-go. You guys got to be super responsive. We're going to be super responsive. We've got to move this needle. And hence in Dubai, I even was setting my one deal had gotten delayed on close. I was like, oh, it'll be done before I go there. And then it wasn't. But I was setting my alarm, every hour or two. And then one team member could call, when you have the emergency call through, even if it's silenced. So because I was like, I don't want to bottleneck this. I've got the buyer, I've got the SBA, I've got the acquirer. You got all these moving pieces at the very end. So the funny story is I had one transaction. This was in the beginning, and she had done all the due diligence. And this is a 6-figure sale, and this stupid due diligence checklist was 37 pages long, because the lawyer on the other side was like, here, just gave a template of like something that should be a $50 million acquisition, right? So I just said, hey, put NA, like a lot of this stuff doesn't apply to you. But she just was getting stressed towards the end of like, is it going to close, et cetera? And it was running on time and everything was great and perfect. And then the day before close, she's like, I need to take an emotional day off. I'm too stressed. I need an emotional day. So please don't contact me today. I'm like, it is literally closing tomorrow. You will have unlimited freaking personal days. I go, because anything can happen. And there's a bazillion stories I've heard. Again, luckily not us, but I'm like, you don't. And I started listing them. And I even said war back before the Ukrainian war. That's what's crazy. I was like, a war can happen. This can happen. An atomic bomb. I'll like, even my team members are like, you act like Armageddon's going to happen tomorrow. Because I'm always like, move. I'm like, it might happen tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, nobody's a fortune teller. And, there was some people out in spring break of March 2020 I was on spring break, and I had a plan, and I was telling myself I was going to do things in the month of April, but I never did those things in April of 2020 because the world changed. So nobody's a fortune teller. So if it's something that you can do, all we can do is all we can do. So we got to make sure that we're doing all we can, and we have to outsource and bring in third parties to be able to help us to get stuff done in a timely manner if we're going to get that lucrative exit. So a couple more questions for you, Christine. The next one is, negotiating like a pro so you don't leave money on the table. And I know that you have some significant expertise and experience with some higher level of negotiations, but what's a couple of things that maybe a business owner that's looking to list their business needs to be thinking about to prepare that negotiation?
Okay, so the golden rule is, don't say the first price. I mean, a lot of us already know that. Don't call out the first price ever in a negotiation. Sometimes it gets tricky because then they don't want to do it. I've been in that spot where they know the rule too, and they don't want to do it either. All my friends kind of pick on me because they, $20 item, I'll negotiate, right? And so, because it's a muscle. And so I've taught people that. It's like negotiation's a muscle you got to build and confidence you got to build up. So don't be afraid to freaking negotiate everything. But yeah, try not to name the price first. Give options. So hopefully this person's not going to watch this one, but the business advisor on the buy side, and this just happened, and we were so confused. I'm like, am I reading this wrong? So people love options. They gave us 2 options. Okay. And again, deal structures, they're always like, I don't say they're apples to apples ever, because we've been getting multiple LOIs on all our listings, anywhere from 3 to 5 competing offers. And that's my favorite part. I go around and around, I'm negotiating, I'm like, and you just keep going until people drop, right? Until you've got one left. And so this person gave 2 options. So it's not apples to apples, it's apples to carrot to a candy bar. Like they're so freaking different. He sends it over this week and he's like, option 1, a less of a purchase price. And then the seller's going to carry, 115K. And then option 2 is a more of a price options. And then owner's going to carry 115. And then the remaining 21,000 will be on a different type of note. And me and the seller, he's like, I don't get this. So I don't either. And even my right hand, Lauren's like, I'm like, what are we missing? And I was like, is it a typo? Is it not? And the LOI came in and got signed already. I don't know what the hell. Like, of course you're going to pick option 2 because it's a bigger price, it's a bigger asking. And yeah, maybe he's got to carry that 21K also. I don't know. Hopefully he doesn't watch this. Knock on wood. The deal's got to close before I share these stories.
Hey, Christine, just out of curiosity, you mentioned just a few minutes ago being a seller's market. Can you kind of elaborate on that? What changes from seller's market to a buyer's market? It's just a lot. I mean, there's supply and demand usually is what drives up the price of a house, multiple offers, seller's market, buyer's market. But when you say seller's market for businesses, can you just expand on that real quick?
Definitely. So what ended up happening is during COVID, all these corporate people got a taste of freedom. They got to be with their families. They got to work from home. Then now they all went back and they're like, this freaking sucks. And they're learning, like business acquisition is getting really sexy. I think everybody saw the fallout of all the startups, like, right? A lot of follow-up. So people are scared of the startup world and you can't really, it's very difficult to raise capital right now. We all know that. So then and again, Walker teaches it in the book, and I love this example of, these corporate people have good salary. A lot of times they have equity in their homes. They could pull some equity. They can pull from their 401k without penalties. And most people do not know that. And then SBA is the big one right now. And because the rates are so high, it's about 10 to 11%, but the business is servicing the debt. So it doesn't matter. Your business is paying for that interest rate. Who cares? Versus a house, you're personally paying it. So it feels a little more, rough. So let's say somebody wants $1 million business that's cash flowing out 200K, 20%, which you could totally find. So now they just replace maybe their 200K a year salary. Boom. What they did was they need to put 10% down. So that's 100K on $1 million. And they got a business cash flowing 200 a year. Right. So that's like a no brainer. And the extra cool thing is that it's a 2% failure rate. Because of course, SB is going to put the business through the ringer. They're going to put you through the ringer. They're going to, they want to keep that, 98% success rate going. So it's pretty much so we have a lot of first-time buyers and we have a lot of SBA right now that we work with. Caveat is they take a while. The loans are clocking in. Our last one was 77 days. They always say 45. My own transaction said 45 days with Eco Chateau. Got delayed. I mean, imagine the stress that I had. Because like you said, you're before the wire hits, you're already spending the money in your head. Sometimes you're spending it on credit cards because you're like, oh, it's going to close this week. Mine went 93 days. So I even had a massive expensive party that was already put together here in San Diego, 250 people to celebrate the exit of my business, but it didn't close for 2 more weeks after the party. So I had to tell my team early. Anyways, I am very responsible now. I teach my sellers, do not even imagine spending the money until the wire hits, you guys. Do not, right? And myself included, when I come in, I'm really great about it. Because my commission checks are big, but a lot of times I don't even really calculate them until the day of the wire, because I just don't want to think about that money coming into the bank at all. So I'm very mature now. I learned my lesson.
So maybe the 6th R is to relax on scheduling the celebration party until after the wire is made. Is that a good one?
For sure.
Good deal. Well, let's land the plane here and talk to the people a little bit more about the book and some of the services. And for those of you that are not familiar of what Grow My Profit does, is that we have a variety of different services, kind of like a buffet of options that you can pull from, where you can attend one of our live events, you can attend a virtual event, you can be part of our Scale University, which is an online course that you can go through. And if you want to DIY it, we've got opportunities where you can learn at your own pace. You can go through the 6-step process. You can listen to or watch interviews with other successful entrepreneurs. We've broken this down to a step-by-step process of how you can scale your business 2 to 10x in the next 3 to 5 years. We have calendared opportunities where you can plug in, watch webinars with experts like Christine. We've got a Q&A time that you can participate in. And then we've got a ton of resources that we can share with you as a part of being a part of Scale University. One of them is our Business Optimizer, which was born out of Jeff's financial scorecard concept, where we've basically taken an Excel Google sheet and turned it into a optimization tool where you can go in there, craft your mission statement, craft your vision statement. We've put some key questions in there. And this is a process that you can take on your own. And it's something that we give away to you. We help you to organize your time around what matters most. And then we have these amazing opportunities where if you would like to have more personal consulting, you can partner with us. And I don't know, Christine, in terms of your relationships with business owners, is that oftentimes they're already working hard, they're already working smart. They need somebody to come in and help them if they want to sell in the next 3 to 5 years and they want to do it at the most lucrative valuation possible. They're going to need some extra hands on deck. So have you had any experience with businesses that have brought in some third-party consultants or partners of sorts that have helped them to grow sales, grow profitability? I know Jeff has done this with third-party resources, but any experience with bringing in outside sources to ramp up sales, ramp up marketing to get the best price?
Yes, so with Eco Chateau, I'm a big advocate for consultants, like kind of what you're doing. Like, how do you grow the profit? How do you come into business and systematize it before the exit? Because we don't do exit planning, right? People come to us and they wanted to sell yesterday. So that's when we step in. But yeah, for what you guys are doing, because again, business owners are in the weeds. You guys see it, right? You got to pull them out of the weeds and cut the weeds down. So Eco Chateau, I brought on an expensive consultant. Mainly to straighten, it was probably year 4 to kind of straighten out the company. Like we were growing and things were getting messy. And so, and he, they wanted to kind of coach me into a higher role. Like, hey, you're the 0 to 1 million, but let's make you the founder that could be the 1 million to 10 million person, which honestly, I don't like that part. That's a different game. And most of my sellers, same thing. They don't want to do that. So he fixed my company, and then it was so dialed that I'm like, well, I could sell it. Like, I don't even need to be here anymore. So that was not the intention, but that's what happened. So yeah, if somebody comes to us that has already done the legwork, like what you're helping people do, that's day and night. Again, I don't even think we've yet to have our clients are young, right? So they're, youngest 21, oldest 47, most of them are in the like mid 30s. So they don't think to do this stuff. They're just excited about the next venture. Like, okay, I'm going to sell right now.
Yeah. Well, we're super excited about your book and what it is that you're offering. Thanks so much for sharing the digital copy and the audio version with the people that were here live. And if you would like to get a copy of that, be sure to reach out to Christine on LinkedIn, or you can reach her at her website, which is themagnoliafirm.co. Any other specific contact information of where they can grab the book or get in touch with you, Christine?
Yeah, like I said, I'm the best on LinkedIn. It notifies me. You can always email exit@themagnoliafirm.co. I see those emails. My team sees those emails. So yeah, I mean, those would be the best way, but we're on all the social channels. And so that is, and I've got, and Jeff knows this, he's seen them. It's Broker Bob. And so that's my alter ego. So I dress up as an old man on social media, and I do some fun improv, like making fun of that them. So Broker Bob, and brokers aren't really on social media, so I've yet to piss one off, but one of these
Great
days.
videos. You want to get a good laugh. They're great.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, just great disruption of the market and bringing in some new energy, some new insights, and bringing the information to the individual sellers and buyers to, they're obviously fully educated. They're awakened to what's happening in the market, but you're actually there giving them some inside secrets to make that process even easier for them. So, Jeff, any final comments before we wrap up?
No, I'm excited to bring some good information outside of what we're bringing. Christine's got an expertise. This is awesome. I think anybody thinking about buying or selling a business just learned something and could learn a lot more by, engaging with her. So, or if they want to drive revenue, if they're only making 500 grand a year and they really want to get to making $1 million in EBITDA to get that 5 or 10 times multiple, like reach out to Grow My Profit. Let's see how we can expand your sales team, your marketing, and really grow revenue and profit. So maybe a year from now, it's worth a couple $1 million more at exit,
Fantastic. Well, as we wrap up here, if you want to get acquired, you want to have a lucrative exit, reach out to us, growmyprofit.com. We'll put you in contact with Christine. If you missed any of the contact information that's in the live chat or in the show notes, we'll make sure that you get connected to her, and really appreciate you sharing your afternoon with us, and look forward to seeing you all real soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.